Top Secret. Chapter 1. The moment this door closes, everything that is said will be considered top secret and is not to be repeated outside this room. The man stepping into the room looked about 50, with a stern and serious expression on his face. The 6 people in the room looked at him quietly, not wanting to interrupt him. They were all between 19 and 30. Some were more experienced with situations like this, while others faced this for the first time. With a determined click, the door closed, and one of the few people that came in with the man quickly set up the laptop so they could start the briefing. Chan sighed quietly as he tried to follow what the chief was saying, but most of it had no meaning to him, since it was his first time ever taking part in a meeting like this. He just had his graduation ceremony a few weeks back, and already he was part of the working force in a job like this. At first, he didn't even know why he was here. When those men in black suits had picked him up from his home, telling him he would have to come with them, it was really just confusing. But after listening in on the briefing on terrorism, he suddenly found himself understanding why he was here and what was going on. This was about Guns of Angels, one of the most popular Nighthead games, and why he was here was easy too. He was one of the top players in said game. We got word of organized terrorism and crime communicating, recruiting, and running a black market through the game. So we asked you all here to form an in-game specialized unit and take on missions, get a name for yourself, and infiltrate their network. Leave introductions for now. You'll be able to get to know your team members later. I will give you a rundown of what your mission is. The old man totally ignored all of them as he gave his briefing, giving off a feeling of urgency. Okay, now that the chief gave you a briefing, I'm sure you all know why you're here. I'm Roy, and I'll be your supervisor during this operation. You'll report everything back to me. One of the men that stayed behind after the chief left spoke up. He was standing in front of the 6 sitting around the table. He wasn't much older than them, which helped them feel comfortable around him. This beautiful young lady, Roy smiled, pointing at the woman sitting next to the guy at the laptop, is Ren. She'll be in charge of your bodies while your brain is connected to the Nighthead. Ren stood up, giving them a slight nod and a smile, quickly putting everyone at ease. She really had a relaxing, calming aura about her. Roy smiled, seeing that they had calmed down a lot. Well then, let me introduce the team. Chan, please come here. Chan looked up at Roy, nodding right away, standing up to come to the front. Guys, this is Chan, your commander. He is one of the top-ranking players and mission command leader for this year's leaderboard mission battle. He will lead your team for your infiltration mission. Roy confidently placed his hand on Chan's shoulder, giving the others a smile. First, we tried the infiltration, having a professional military unit playing the game, but they failed miserably. Thus, we've decided we need a commander familiar with the game, and that's why we asked Chan to join our team. After that, Roy went around, introducing the other 5 members of his team. First, we have Yuta. He's the same age as you, Chan. His speciality is hacking. Next, we have Dian. He is a military sniper with little game experience, but with the right commander, he can be useful. Then these 2 ladies, Mei, a mapper, and Talon, a mechanic. Last we have Khan. He is a dealer. Chan nodded as they were introduced to him, one after another. In the end, he couldn't help but smile. They really did their homework. The team they gave him was the exact team he would gather for every standard mission, and what would be found in any proper Guns of Angels guide. I might need to get outside help for one mission or another, but this team will do for now, Chan replied. After they were shortly introduced, Roy had left them with the mission instructions, and left with Ren and the other member of the chief's team that they hadn't been introduced to. Chan sighed, looking at the mission information. It was clear what they wanted them to do. Well, the way it looks, we'll have to register a new Special Force unit in the game and work our way up the leaderboard. They want us to use our current accounts to make it easier for people to recognize us and don't ask too many questions as to why a completely new registered team can climb up that fast. The first mission will be the introduction mission. Easy to do, but the path they laid out for us is different from a normal gameplay. I'll go through this all and come up with a preliminary plan, and then let's go over it together. As commander, his job was to oversight the mission and plan everything and give out orders if the plan went sideways. Let me see the mission list. I can help you by running simulations. Yuta spoke up right away. He was a hacker and a computer specialist with a lot of gaming experience, so he knew what to do. Chan just nodded. Let me write a proper mission briefing. This is just bad. He sighed again, turning round to the computer. Commander, when you're done, please let me know soon so I can get familiar with the map and the train we'll enter. May's soft, polite voice sounded behind them, and Chan nodded right away. You'll get all the information you need. And don't call me Commander outside the game. Makes me feel old. He chuckled softly. Hey, don't say that. You're the youngest here. Diane spoke up. He was sitting on the table, one foot on a chair, playing with his dog tags, looking rather uninterested. Chan just shrugged, letting the others laugh at his expense. Diane wasn't wrong. With his fresh out of school 19 years, he was the youngest, other than Yuta. Sitting around the table, each with their own mission briefing, the six had gathered the next day. Wow, now I get why they put so much hope in you as a commander. This is fantastic. Talan waved the folder of papers she had gotten with a smile. With her laid-back, easygoing personality and her rough girl with a heart of gold appearance, she was the type of person easy to get close to, and Chan nodded with a smile, hearing that compliment. The first mission is the easiest. It's the registration mission. After registering a team, we'll have to fulfill the mission within 8 hours to be officially registered. It'll be no trouble, so I would put the main focus on the second mission for now, so we can complete both quickly and move on to the more difficult missions. Chan took lead easily as he started going through what they would have to do for each of the levels of the game to rise through the ranks. If we accomplish all this and get the attention of those people running black market deals through the game, we'll be invited to complete a secret mission. We don't know what the mission will be or how much time we'll have for it, so I hope these first missions will help us get the feel of the others' abilities. Chan sat down as he concluded the short command briefing. Yuta got up right away, taking over. The boy really had skills. He was running simulations based on the briefing papers he had gotten from Chan, and he was already making lists of what skills they would need to acquire, and how they would get skill points and upgrade skill trees to get the needed skills for the missions. Chan smiled in approval. The team really was well put together. After Yuta, May gave them a rundown about terrain and maps and other information about the game world they would need. Chan was listening carefully to make sure he could take everything they said into consideration. It was weird to talk like this, without even knowing the others' game characters, but it didn't make much difference, since all the information would still be the same. With a thankful sigh, Chan took the cup of coffee that appeared in front of him. After taking a sip, he handed it on to Yuta with an unhappy growl. Why do you drink your coffee so sweet? He complained as he took the other cup Kun was handing him. Finally, this was real coffee. Black and hot. Perfect to wake up his brain after an all-nighter. Yuta ignored his question, grabbing the cup and putting it down. His fingers on the keyboard were constantly moving. Chan leaned with his arm on the backrest of Yuta's chair, looking over his shoulder as they were going over stats and game information. They were still going through the missions and needed skills. It was a lot of work and they wanted to finish by tomorrow, since the first game dive was set for that day. Yuta finally stopped typing, leaned back, sipping his coffee. The sugar keeps my brain focused, he replied after a long silence. Now that the keyboard went silent too, no sound infiltrated the office. Khan looked up from the plans he was looking at. Did you finish? Not yet, but we should take a break. Chan spoke determinedly. May and Talon are already sleeping in the break room. Me and Diane took a nap earlier. The only two that stayed up are you and Yuta. You should rest. Yuta got up without much of a word, walking to the door. Wait up. I'll come along to buy breakfast. Chan quickly spoke up as he saw the other grabbing his wallet on the way out. Yuta stopped, nodding. Then hurry. Yuta looked around the store. He couldn't spot Chan right away. Only after looking around once more did he see him standing in front of the fridge looking at the drinks. Smiling, Yuta stepped closer, placing some snacks in the basket. They had ordered breakfast at the food stall nearby, and were now at the convenience store to buy other stuff, like drinks and snacks for the rest of the team. I didn't think it would be this much work. Just graduated high school. Shouldn't we prepare for university rather than working this hard? Fishing a big bottle of energy drink from the back of the store fridge, Yuta sighed as he complained. Chan chuckled, nodding his head. True that. I mean, I just finished my university applications. Then I got taken away by those men in black suits. He looked at the basket with food, nodding. This should be enough. With that, he walked over to the counter. By the way, Yuta, what do you want to study? The chief said we can still attend university. Yuta shrugged as he put the stuff they bought into a plastic bag. Computer science. I'm good with computers after all. Well, that made a lot of sense, Chan thought, nodding. You? Yuta was already standing by the door waiting for Chan to pay and follow him to pick up the food. I was thinking either social studies or law studies. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't found my passion, other than games. 6 people were quietly sitting with their heads down around the table, shoveling food into their mouths. Roy couldn't help but laugh as he walked into the room. Wow, did someone starve you? He asked playfully as he looked at Ren. I thought you would feed them, Ren. Without even answering, Ren stepped forward. Guys, we'll do a physical exam today, so we have the data we need for your dives. Her voice was soft as ever, sounding like a melody. It really fit in with her soft features. And after, you'll give me a full briefing. We want everything to be ready for tomorrow. You'll have to set a good first record to get attention, Roy right away added. The others just nodded, without stopping their food intake. With a shrug, Roy turned to leave. Let's go, Ren. They seem to be busy with eating. Guys, just come to the office down the hall one after another after you've finished eating. It was nearly evening. Chan rubbed his eyes with exhaustion. He hadn't slept at all. First the physical, then he had returned to going over data with the team members, and after that, he had given Roy a briefing of what they had gotten so far. He was finally feeling the fatigue taking over. Chan, you need to take a rest, May softly spoke, seeing how exhausted he looked. We're finished with all this data, Yuta said. See? Now let's go home so we're all fit for tomorrow, Kan added with a worried look. We went through everything important. If anything happens, we'll be able to adjust on the fly. Let's get some sleep and meet fresh tomorrow, Chan finally agreed, dismissing the others. Yuta stood quietly next to the door waiting for Chan. They were living in the same part of town, and since Yuta came by car, he had offered Chan a ride. Chan finished up quickly, only gathering a few papers. You know, I'm happy you're part of the team. I feel I can trust you with a lot. Chan was leaning against the seat with his eyes closed. His voice was quiet, but Yuta could still hear it, a smile appearing on his face. Thank you. I'm happy you're my commander too. I can rely on you a lot. Pulling over once they got close to Yuta's house, he looked over to ask Chan what way he would have to drive. Chan? Chan. He started but quickly stopped talking as he saw the other peacefully sleeping in the seat. With a smile, Yuta grabbed his jacket covering Chan. After he turned his attention back on the road, without knowing what direction, Yuta decided to just drive to his house for now. Rubbing his eyes, Chan looked around. Where are we? Yuta looked over, smiling. You finally woke up. I didn't know your address, so I just drove home. Next time, tell me your address before you fall asleep. Chan lowered his head, a little embarrassed. He really didn't intend to fall asleep, but the monotone sound of the motor and the comfortable seat had lulled him in. To avoid having to look at Yuta, he looked around instead. Lucky me. We aren't that far from my place. I can grab a taxi and we'll be home in 5 minutes. Chan finally recognised the part of town he was in. 5 minutes? It's just that I can drive you myself and you'll save the money. Yuta put the car in reverse, pulling out of the driveway and into the street. Just tell me what way. It really only took 5 minutes for them to arrive. Waving goodbye, Chan was about to leave when Yuta called out, Wait, I'll pick you up tomorrow. Chan nodded, smiling in agreement, happy that he got a ride and didn't have to take public transport. The commander was standing on a rock plateau, overlooking the war-ridden flatland in front of him. Taking in a deep breath, he smiled. He could finally smell the war again, finally feel the excitement of battle again. Behind him was the run-down, crumbling ruins of Kotoa, a once beautiful and prospering city. The world had fallen into war years ago, making a beautiful city like that fall into what it was today. The three world governments were only interested in keeping up the war, and no one bothered with beauty anymore. If it didn't make a profit, it was unnecessary. With a long, deep sigh, the commander jumped down. He was still within city limits, right at the line, and he could smell the enemy waiting right outside the city. Even though Kotoa was now a slum of run-down buildings, it was still one of the main military bases for the East government, and it was heavily guarded. Everything beyond the borders was wildland. He had counted 8 enemies. They weren't strong or well-organised, so he assumed it was a plundering gang. They really had picked the wrong target. With a soft smile, the commander looked back at the city. He still had about 30 minutes until he had to report to main base. With that, he smiled, deciding to have some fun. Standing right at the edge of the border, he pulled his gun. Everything was over in an instant. Too bad these scavengers were so weak. Stepping over the border, he right away disappeared. Of course, he didn't actually disappear. The commander had just activated his camouflage, making him invisible to the naked eye. With a quick evasive move forward, he avoided the blindly shot bullets. Getting up, he used the strength booster to jump onto the roof to take out the sniper first. Too bad the guy was so untalented, or else they would have had a fighting chance. But with a sniper back up in such close proximity, it was easy for the commander to take him out. Right after, he appeared again, right behind the two scavengers that were closest, taking them both out with exactly 1 bullet each. He disappeared again, quickly rolling to the side as he didn't bother using a muffler, and the sound of the shot had given away his position. Using the sound instead to lure the next team members, he quickly took them out too. 3 more enemies. One was running away, the other 2 were closing in on his position. Smiling, the commander nodded. They weren't completely stupid. The 2 showed skills, using their camouflage to disappear and their sneaking skills to walk quietly. Any normal soldier would have fallen for it, but he was the commander after all. With a smile, he watched the sand move wherever they set their feet, waiting for them to be close enough for him to be able to take them both out with 2 quick moves. Letting out a sigh, the commander got up to gather the scavengers' materials. After stepping over the boundary, he slowly stretched his back, making his way back to the main base. He was just on time. Looking around the room, he looked at all 5 of them carefully. It took him some time to recognize who was who. "Damn, Commander! You had fun without us?" Enya spoke up first. In her overalls with the machines hanging around her belt, she was the easiest to recognize. Her pointy nose and cute freckles didn't hide her easygoing heart-of-gold attitude. Plus, everything about her screamed mechanic, so how could he not recognize her? Next was a small cute girl with a lot of paper rolls hanging over her shoulder. Yup, this one was easy too, she was the mapper. Next, the sniper wasn't as easy, but the crew cut and the uniform gave him away. Next was the dealer. He was easy to spot, since the guy he couldn't see behind the computers has to be the hacker. So the only other one left was the dealer. Enya, Balian, Mang, Namus, and... He read all their usernames as he put their faces to the characters. The last name was still hidden behind the computer. Only when he stood up could he read it. Phantom. Shit. The commander took a deep breath. He recognized that username anywhere. This guy was his worst enemy. And now, they had to work together. Chan took another deep breath, calming down. Right now, he was the commander, a man that could work with anyone as long as the price was right, so he ignored the feeling of unease and mistrust settling in his stomach, and smiled. Good to finally meet all your characters. With that, he put down everything he had gathered from the scavengers. If you want to keep anything, take it. The rest will be sold to make money for our mission. Nodding right away, the 5 went over to take a look at what the commander had gathered. By the way, Commander, how do you pronounce your username? Barlian spoke up. Just call me Commander. The username's German. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just fascinated with it. With that, he walked over to the computer. Did you finish setting up for our registration, Phantom? He leaned on the backrest of the chair, just like he did in the office. Yes, Commander. I finished. The boy really was fast with his work. The 6 of them gathered around the big table in the middle. Barlian, May's character, was talking them through the exact route they would take for their first mission. Chan, Yuta, Talon, Khan, Diane, and May were currently in Nighthead Dive, playing Guns of Angels. The Nighthead was a games console that enabled people to fully dive into a game, making it seem as if they were really there. Their bodies were safely in the medical lab of the offices, but their minds were currently occupying these other bodies in a different world. It was a new way of gaming, only out for a few years. Without a lot of training or experience, getting a full grip of it was difficult, but that's why the agency had recruited gamers to run this mission instead of using their military assets. By the way, I wanted to ask since the beginning, Barlian, you're nearly 27 in real life. Why did you choose a character that looks like a little kid in this game? Namus, Khan's character, suddenly interrupted Barlian's briefing. Barlian looked up at him angrily. As a mapper, I have to scout areas a lot. The smaller I am, the less likely I'll be seen, and small characters have high agility and fast speed. With my special character attribute, I double my speed, without any items, thus the character is perfect for a mapper, she explained, her hands on her hips angrily. Barlian really was a little sensitive when the topic of age came up. Since she entered the agency right after finishing university, she had never had the chance to have a proper love life, and with her age not getting younger, her whole family was pushing for her to get married. Concentration, please. We have at least 4 missions to finish before we're forced to log out because of the safety timer. The commander spoke up. His voice was deep and filled with authority, quickly getting the others to return to the briefing. In-game, Chan was probably the oldest, with his character's age close to 29. He was a good-looking man with a lot of roughness around the edges, the complete opposite of his real-life self. He was a 19-year-old boy that could either look confident or really scared, depending on the cloth he was wearing. He wasn't tall nor small, and thought of himself as rather average, but here in this world, he was the commander, one of the best players and the only loner on the top 100 list. Loners were characters that had no direct affiliation with any organisation. They were like hired guns running ops for whoever was paying. Mostly, only beginners started as loners and would join an organisation as soon as they got enough points. But Chan had played as a loner the whole time, so for him to register with a team like this was something that would have people talk. But luckily enough, there was a good reason for him to do it, other than, well, I'm working for the government now. Soon the Team Special Unit tournament would take place, and since he was already topping the solo rankings, he easily could just tell people he wanted to top the team ranking too. The commander was a real competitive person, and everyone knew it, so for him wanting to top the team ranking was something they all would expect. After they finished the short briefing, they finally started the first mission. We have to finish this one quickly to be registered as an official team. After that, we'll have to run the official op for the tournament to be qualified to not blow our cover, and 2 more ops to get the points to make it to the qualifier. With our skills, I picked the best 2 ops that will give us the most points and resources to get set up for the tournament. We'll run big ops that give teams recognition, parallel to running tournament ops. So be ready for it. This'll be a lot of work. The commander smiled after finishing his speech as he turned to Phantom. Finish the registration. Phantom nodded, and with a few clicks they all got the pop-up about their registration as a team and their first mission. The starting mission wasn't difficult, it was an easy retrieving mission, and any of them could have probably done it by themselves. Instead, the commander decided to take both Namus and Enya along. Mang was running surveillance as backup, while Balian and Phantom stayed behind to finish up preps for the next mission. Since he had already done these missions, the commander wanted to start off his new team by setting a record for both the fastest to finish and most mission points earned on the team's first day. He had 24 hours before the game would auto-log out to keep the players safe. Normally, the cooldown period after staying in-game for 24 hours was about 6 hours, so he would need to really speed up their missions to finish them before the time was up, or else they would lose a whole 6 hours and the mission, since these missions of course were running on a time limit. Making sure the timer for the logout was running, the commander turned to Namus. "Let's hurry." Smiling, Enya was sitting on top of the overland line pole, holding up the retrieved item. "Let me turn this into the organisation quickly, and then we can take on the next mission." Giving a signal to Mang to follow Enya as protection, so no one could piggyback on their mission, the commander returned to their base with Namus. "Phantom, the second the mission complete pop-up comes up, take on the next. I'll take Balian and Namus to get in position on the outskirts so we can move quickly. Balian will send the fastest route for you to meet up with Mang and Enya and join us as soon as we have the mission location." The commander turned to the other two after seeing Phantom nod in agreement. They quickly left the base. From their internet search, they knew the general coordinations for the qualification mission. Of course, it wasn't like the other missions, where all the information about it was already online, but they still had gotten a good idea of what was going on. With a smile, the commander looked at the mission complete new time record appearing in front of his eyes. Setting a time record for the other missions would be difficult, but as it was a mission everyone only got to do once with the same team, the registration mission was easy. Every other mission they would have to go up against time runners to set a new record, and he really wasn't sure they'd be able to do that. "Balian, check the mission coordinates and send the route. Namus and I will fall back to get to the higher ground. Report back when you're done with scouting." Giving out commands, the others listened right away. Balian was busy navigating and following map routes. Namus followed him to higher ground so they would have a good overview of what they were up against. The mission was an infiltration and stealing data from a highly protected villa. "We'll need Phantom to get into that system," the commander sighed. "Phantom, do you know how to secure someone while system diving?" Phantom nodded right away as he was setting up his laptop to link up with the target computer. "Yes, Commander, I do." They had successfully infiltrated the villa and were on a really close time limit. Mang was securing their escape route, Namus was securing the perimeter, and Enya was busy keeping the security systems rebooting and rerouting so it wouldn't go off. "Balian, do you know how to dive?" the commander asked, though he knew the answer. He just didn't want to dive with Phantom being the security net. He still deep down mistrusted him since the second he saw his name. But what else could he do? Balian, of course, shook her head. "I'll do the dive then." System diving was a high-class skill that only a few acquired. Mostly those people would be highly specialised assets for their organisation, but since the commander was running as a loner, he had put the time in to learn it. Of course, there were other ways to get the data without a dive, but it was slower, and the possibility of getting caught was nearly 100%, so all they had left was dive or fight their way out. The commander quickly made the decision. "Hook me up and keep me safe." System diving was like flying, but even more difficult. Imagine the feeling of suddenly having no ground to stand on, no sky to span over your head, and nobody to even be. It was something humans wanted to do, but couldn't, only because of the non-existence of the game body it was even possible. The commander pushed every thought aside, only concentrating on exactly the information he wanted. The world around him was colours and strings of zeros and ones. His brain was struggling to control the data flow. It was painful, rough, and it was like constantly falling. But it was smooth, a lot smoother than his normal dives. The boy really was excellent with computers. The safety net he'd put around the commander's thoughts was holding perfectly, giving him a lot more room to move than any other net he had used so far. Finally he had the file, and without a second wasted, he came back up, quickly taking position as he waited for Phantom to finish the download. "Let's toast our commander." Talon raised her glass with a smile. "Without him, we'd have never been able to finish 5 missions in less than 24 hours and set a new record. What they say is really true. You are commander for a reason." They finished their dive not even an hour ago, and right after they came back, Roy had taken them out for a company dinner to celebrate their new record. They had gathered more points on their first day than any other team before. To be honest, no one was surprised. Both Phantom and the Commander were well known in-game for their skills, making them an unbeatable team. But it was a surprise to see them team up, since until now they had always been on different sides. No matter what, if the Commander showed up on a battlefield or a counter-spy mission soon after, Phantom wound up on the other team to shut down the Commander. Up until now, the battle scores were the hottest topic, and everyone was betting on who would win the next battle. Thus, seeing them together was really the talk of the town. Chan looked over at Yuta with a sigh. He really wanted to say something, but since the other acted like nothing happened, Chan couldn't really say anything about it. Ignoring the situation, he instead turned to the others to laugh with them, eat and drink. Not long after, they were all done eating, and one after another they started to say their goodbyes. Even though they took a rest in-game, their minds would still be engaged for 24 hours, making them all exhausted and tired. Chan, let's go. I'll drive you home, Yuta said as he got up, handing Chan his jacket. The other was only humming shortly in reply. Roy and Diane had leaned on him heavily to get him drunk, so with a spinning head and feeling dizzy, he didn't talk much, just quietly let Yuta take care of him, since it was truly convenient. This time Chan managed to not fall asleep in the car, but it was more due to the fact that the movement made him feel queasy, and he really had to fight to keep himself together. Yuta pulled over the car. Get some sleep and drink a lot of water. I'll pick you up again tomorrow. He smiled, watching Chan to make sure he was okay, before driving home himself.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to Chapter 1 of Top Secret. If you're interested in the novel, please check it out. Otherwise, please check out the narrator, because he's doing an amazing job, and I really enjoyed working with him on the first chapter. The other chapters will be out soon, I hope. And anything else, if you enjoyed the story, please leave me a like, and if you have anything to say, please leave me a comment. Otherwise, if you're looking out for the next chapters, please follow and hit the bell so you know when I upload the next chapter. If you're interested in my writing style, you can listen to my other audiobooks. They're all on my channel. Thank you very much, and bye bye.